All right, next section, orbitals. So let's talk about how it is that those electrons behave within an atom. It turns out that the field of quantum mechanics, it actually describes behavior of electrons using mathematical wave equations. Quantum mechanics, unfortunately, is very, very confusing by its very nature. There have been actual studies that have shown that we have no frame of reference in dealing with quantum mechanics. Our brains are ill-equipped to visualize how quantum mechanics works. So the best we can do is get our definitions clear, be able to describe what these electron behaviors are, and sort of resign ourselves to the fact that it's not going to be something that'll be terribly easy for us to visualize. And that's okay. The top scientists in the field of quantum mechanics are confused by it, so that's okay. Don't be frustrated with the confusion that you'll have about dealing with orbitals. Just sort of take it one bit at a time. Take the things that we tell you about what's important that you know about orbitals, and we'll be able to use that information later on. It's wave equations because electrons actually behave more like waves when we're talking about where it is that they can behave. Just like if you're standing there with a jump rope attached to the wall, you can actually get it so that it can be going up and down with waves that way, and you can actually get it so that the center part can be sort of stationary, and you're flipping up and down, but you can have an up part and a down part, and then a down part and an up part like that. So electrons actually behave something sort of like that, where we can't really think of an electron as just a single little particle, but it can appear in one part of an atom and have a certain kind of property, and appear in another part of the atom with an opposite type of property. Just like that jump rope would be sort of upwards on part of it and downwards on another part of it if you're moving it up and down like that. So the wave function, or an orbital, those are pretty similar terms. Those are just solutions to these wave equations. So those quantum mechanical wave equations are very complicated equations that describe where electrons tend to be and how they're behaving. But these orbitals, which we'll be using, those just describe a three-dimensional space where electron is likely to be. Remember, we cannot just say that an electron is a little point, that it exists right in one place. All we can say is that an electron exists somewhere within this area. So I've got pictures here of three orbitals. This spherical one is an s orbital. Just means that there's an electron somewhere inside this spherical region. The one with two lobes is a p orbital. And all this means is that an electron can appear sort of above the nucleus or below the nucleus. There's almost no chance that an electron will appear on the same level as the nucleus. That's called a node. We draw a dotted line between these two lobes. A node is a region of no electron density, where there's essentially no chance of finding an electron in there. And this p orbital, we usually color it two colors. We have a red lobe and a blue lobe. That just means there's something fundamentally different about the electron when it's in this top one versus when it's in that bottom one. So that's all that we need to really say about that, that it just has those two lobes. They don't actually appear red or blue, and there's nothing special about one versus the other. It's just that they're different, right? So the d orbitals, this is an example of a certain d orbital. It has two nodes. Okay? It has four lobes, so it looks like a clover leaf. The nodes run in between each of those clover leaves. So the electron that's defined by this orbital could appear in any of those lobes, and each of them have sort of different properties. There's something different about each of those. We're going to spend almost all of our time in this course just talking about s and p orbitals, along with the new kinds of orbitals that they can form. So we're not going to worry too much about d orbitals. So let's talk about shells. Shells are just groupings of orbitals. So I can have several orbitals that get grouped together within a certain shell, and higher shells have orbitals that tend to be larger, in size and higher in energy. So the lowest shells, the ones that are closest into the nucleus, are where electrons will have the lowest energy and electrons will be the most stable. Got a little diagram here. The first shell has a capacity of 2 electrons. So we indicate that 2 electrons can fit in there using an up arrow and a down arrow. We'll talk about electron spin here in a little bit, but those 2 electrons, we can have 2 of those electrons in that first shell. The second shell has a capacity of 8 electrons, and in order for that to work, we have to have 4 orbitals. So this one in the first shell was called 1s. In the second shell, we've got a single 2s orbital. So it's like the 1s, in that it's spherical, but 2s is going to be larger than 1s. So it's an s, it's spherical. Each orbital holds 2 electrons. That's important for us to know. One orbital holds 2 electrons. So if this second shell can hold 8 electrons, that means we have 4 orbitals to talk about. So first is 2s, and then there's some 2p orbitals, and there are actually 3 of them. So we'll define those in a second. So that 2p can hold 3, 4, 5, 6, because there are 3 of those orbitals, and if each orbital can hold 2 electrons, then 2p can hold 6. Third shell will hold up to 18 electrons. We'll get to that in a second.